welcome to Real Life with Lisa. I'm Lisa Jacobson and I'm married to Matthew, and together we have 8 wonderful children. We are also a homeschooling family, something I don't talk about too much on the blog, but the last week and this week I thought we'd cover that since so many of you asked me about our homeschooling experience and things that we would do, things we wouldn't do. And last week I just basically took you through a typical day, if all goes well, in our home. And then this week I wanted to answer some of those other questions that often come up, things like, what if there's a big gaping hole in your education? Or what are some of those resources that you recommend? Okay, so here's a question I get all the time. What if there are gaping holes in their education? So I'm just going to tell you, there are gaping holes in our education. And yet, now in the beginning, this was an experiment, I have to admit, because all along, especially the first 4 older kids, I was thinking, is this going to work? I mean, we had illness, we had our Avonlea, we had so many setbacks. I just thought it'll be a miracle if we even get to high school, but we did. And we found that by the time their later years in high school, that those holes, like I failed in geography, or I was so behind in science, different years, different topics I was behind in, those kids made up for it. They either that summer, they would take classes at our local community college. They found a tutor that would help them either bring them up or just maybe go online and take a class there. And I thought that was going to be the end of the world, that they didn't learn these things at the age you're supposed to learn them in. But in my experience, and so far, 4 out of 4, I would say they turned out just fine. So if you're panicking and you find that, your other homeschooler friends, they've already, by the time they're 3rd grade, they've learned Latin and have read all the best, literature books, and you feel like all you can do is, get through the day. Can I just encourage you that you're going to be fine? I promise you, because if you looked at my day and the things that were coming against us, and we came out all right. And it's the, grace of God, and it's the resiliency of children. So please don't be too hard on yourself. If you were just working on their hearts and their lives, teaching them discipline and honesty and faithfulness, they're going to be just fine. Okay. So another question that was part of this question was about the different ages. We have always had an age expanse, young kids and older kids. Here are some things that we've done. We did the buddy system. We had an older kid always take a younger kid, and they were responsible maybe for their snack time, for teaching them preschool, maybe taking them for walks. It always varied, but we were big fans of the buddy system. And we also found that with the older children helping the younger children, it blessed everybody. Our older children learned to serve, and I think that's a great lesson for older children to learn. Our younger children learned to appreciate their older siblings, and to this day, our older children are very close to the younger boys, and they call them, they take them out on dates, take them out for coffee. So even though at the time it seems like, there's just so much going on, and am I gypping my younger kids because I'm trying to homeschool my older kids? I think there are hidden blessings in that happy chaos, and it's okay that you get creative on how to make it work. And there are plenty of days that it doesn't go as planned. I had a lot of those days, and in the end, it all turned out okay. All right, so which brings us to the next question. How do you keep up with it all? I don't. I feel like I should just let you know that. I do not keep up with it all. I'm always behind in something. And when the kids were younger, it was way worse in terms of that. But here's my perspective, and see what you think of this. So our kitchen table is full of science projects, and it was messy, and I forgot to go to this appointment, and all of a sudden I realized that the younger child was already 7, and I forgot to teach her to read. Okay, it never got to be quite that bad, but close. And that's okay. It was the season we were in, and I think we need to give ourselves grace for that season. And I don't mean make excuses, because if you are in a place in your life and you are homeschooling and you need to get more organized, get organized. And it is important, and it's important to give your kids a sense of purpose. So I don't want to take away from those things, but I think most of us lean more on the beat ourselves up side of things. So give yourself some grace. Make sure you're doing the important things and not worrying so much about all those details of having a clean house and going to all the activities. Okay, here's another good example. We didn't do very many activities when the kids were younger. We were at home a lot and focusing on their studies and focusing on their hearts. Those were important years. And when they got older, they had plenty of years to do those activities. Okay, so which brings me to the next topic, which is what if you have illnesses or new babies or nursing infants? Make the most of it. Make this a season where you're teaching your older children. And older children, I mean, that could even be a 3-year-old, right? If you have a new baby. And just what a blessing to think of it, this opportunity to love on this little guy or this little girl. And I look at that as an important part of homeschooling. And so again, I wouldn't look at it as a negative. I consider that a positive. That's okay. That season passes so quickly. So make the most of it. Take 3 months off if you have to. Okay. And that reminds me of something else. That is, we did not do full days, 5 days a week on homeschooling. We homeschool in the mornings, as in the formal academics. And many years, I only homeschooled 4 days a week. I homeschooled Monday through Thursday, and we took Fridays off. So Fridays for us was a day of cleaning the house, for instance, because after 4 days of homeschooling, your house usually is in shambles. Or we would use that day for field trips. Sometimes I just needed a day, and I would send the kids off to play or watch a long movie or read a good book. And I would use that day for me to catch up. So I personally couldn't do schooling 5 days a week, full days, and still be a pleasant person over the weekend. So just wanted to share that with you in case that's something you needed to hear. Okay, then the other thing she asked us about is any resources that I loved. I'm often asked about curriculum, and I don't tell people what I use for curriculum, not because it's a big secret, but because I think curriculum is a personal choice. And you need to figure out what works for you and your family. And don't be surprised if you even have to change that up a bit. So I did use curriculums. I liked the accountability of a curriculum, but I have really good friends that don't use curriculum at all. They do lap books and unit studies, and they have a great time. That just doesn't work for me. So do you see what I'm saying? It's like I wouldn't want to give you a formula, because homeschooling is not a formula any more than your own family is. And and don't compare yourself to what other people are doing. I had friends that did these amazing full-blown curriculums, and I felt kind of funny limping along with my little make-do programs. But like I said, in the end, all our kids were accepted into the college of their choice. They got scholarships. They did fine. So I wouldn't worry too much about what your neighbor's doing. Okay, so here are some resources I can recommend. I will list these at the bottom here at the blog. And that is, I would encourage you to attend a local homeschool conference. I think they're very encouraging. Just make sure you don't get overwhelmed, and because there's usually way more there than you can take in. But attend some of those workshops and walk through the hall and look at some of the curriculums. That's a great chance for you to pick up the books and open them and see what's in them and see if this might work for you. Just don't buy the whole place, because it's easy to do. I try to come with a list of what I want, what kind of workshops I want to attend, and then what curriculum specifically I'm looking for. And then I kind of try to put blinders on, because I get distracted really easily. Okay, another thing I'm going to recommend is that you join HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Again, I'll have that link down below. It's I think it's about $100 a year to join. That might have changed, but I don't think it's changed much. And it is so worth it. It's like insurance for your homeschooling. That means if you had any kind of legal difficulties, they will come and they will be your lawyers, and they will defend you. We have never had to use it, but we have been thrilled that we've had it. And they have been a great resource for us. They've supported us. They've got all kinds of things on their site that they offer you. So highly recommend that. I get most of my curriculum, some of it on Amazon, most of it through Rainbow Resources, which is a homeschool company that's huge and has good prices on a lot of stuff. So that's where I go. And then lastly, I would encourage you to join or start a support group, because homeschooling is a tough deal. It's wonderful. It's fun. I love it. But I have really been grateful to have friends and other homeschool moms to encourage us to brainstorm together, and on those really difficult days to be there for you. So don't do this alone if at all possible. Try to hook up with others who are doing it. And these days, homeschooling has become so popular, it's not too hard to do usually. Okay, so I'm gonna leave you with these last few tips. And this is my tips for successful homeschooling. All right, keep it simple. I just cannot emphasize this enough. Do not use 37 curriculums. Don't try to tackle 14 topics. Keep it simple. You will really be glad, and your kids will enjoy homeschooling so much more if you do. Okay, I've already touched on this, so I'll just repeat it, but do what works for your family. Don't pay attention to what other people are doing. Just do what works for your family. All right, do not pay attention to what other people are doing. They are doing what works for them. You do what works for you. Be more concerned about your children's hearts than their education. I think we can focus so much on their math scores that we're not paying attention to where their heart is at. And this is the key to successful homeschooling, is where their heart's at. And so we have spent whole mornings where we didn't do one math problem. We just worked on what's going on in your heart. Maybe a child is sad. Maybe a child is struggling. Maybe a child has a rebellion issue. Let's take all morning if we have to, but let's get to the bottom of this. And I have never been sorry that we've taken the time to do that. And closely related is care more about your relationship than your curriculum. And your relationship with your child has to be your main goal. And if you are more worried about their test scores, you're more worried about their advances, then I would suggest that you're worried about the wrong things. Worry about your relationship with your child. That's going to be a lifelong thing, right? And when I get phone calls from my older kids who are way across the country in college, and I think of the relationship and they're bouncing ideas off of me, they're telling me, sharing me their hearts, I just think, I can't remember what math score you got in grade school or even in high school, but boy, do I remember those times where we sat and had a cup of tea together, or those times where you cried and I just held you. And now look at what we're enjoying because of taking that time instead of focusing quite so much on the academics. Okay, so I hope that helps some of your questions. I know I haven't covered everything, but I think if I covered everything, it'd be a couple of hours. So if you have questions, you're welcome to include those in the comments below, or you can write me directly. And if there's anything else I can answer for you, I'd love to do that. And if you have another topic you'd like me to cover, feel free to do that too. All right, God bless. Hope you have a great day.